Hello everyone, how's everybody doing today? I know I'm streaming way early, um, but I wanted to do that really quickly today instead of, because I want to look at a lot of pieces and it might run over. So I wanted to have a little extra time to do that. How is everyone today? Welcome, one and all. Let me do a quick little. Oh, actually, you know what? I think I'll skip announcements on Instagram. Hopefully notifications go out to my subscribers. A dream within a dream, I guess, these days. But it is what it is. And it ain't what it ain't. Doing good, joining the stream after ages. Yeah, welcome to Shar. Hi, Pencil. How are you doing? We can get rolling. People will just come in as they come in. I don't want the listeners on YouTube to wait too much. So today I am taking a look at all of these 14-day challengers. Maybe I'll take a look at this one. So the reason I'm taking a look at all of them is because they're really taking on a very, very tough challenge. I think I already selected that one. Yeah. And I wanted to give them a bit of a boost for their challenge. I believe this challenge is done. If I'm not mistaken, this artist has mentioned that this is complete. So second photo is beginning. So this is day 1, I believe, and this is day 14. It wouldn't kill you guys to put some numbers on these. Make my life a little easier, okay? But I'll be taking a look at 4 14-day challenge pieces today. Hopefully taking a look at the photo reference piece if I have some time and energy left. But yeah, let's get started and just go right into it. So I like what you're doing here, but the shading is a little too clean. So you're really good at blending. You're damn good at it. But when it comes to skin, it's not the kind of texture that needs you to blend as if it is a metallic, smooth metal surface or some perfectly smooth surface. It is, and you're pretty late in the game for your portrait. So let's try to fix this up a little bit. I think your canvas is a little too narrow for what we're using it for. And it has caused more of like, I don't know if you're cropping after you're done, if you're cropping beforehand, but it's caused a very like narrow look to the portrait. So it's kind of squeezed the portrait a little bit. And I think the contrast between your object and your background is a little too, it feels like it's kind of like a milk bath. It feels like there's not enough contrast or separation. It's a little too washed out. So what I'm going to do is darken the skin and delete away first at the things that we know are bright. So the eyes, specular highlights, all of the major highlights. So anywhere where the nose reaches out and catches light, we're going to delete away at those. Beautiful job on all of the blending, the three-dimensional structure of the mouth into the chin. This is phenomenal work. But we get into the face and eyes and something seems to get flattened out. And it's because of this lack of separation between the object and the background. And so I'm just creating this little bit of like material darkness. So this material, which is the head, is blocking a lot of light movement. Oops. And that light movement is going to get interrupted and bounce off, creating a generally darker object. Objects are usually darker than their backgrounds because objects that exist in a space are stopping the uninterrupted flow of light rays, just bouncing around everywhere. So whenever an object suddenly pops into existence, it's stopping this communication between all of these bounced surfaces where light is moving. So I'm not going to deal with that right now. So what I'm trying to do here is show you that there is this rotation in the head that's missing. So I'm going to I'm going to duplicate the layer and try to separate some of these elements that are blocking the light. So first we start off with the ears, and then what we're going to do is bring in a shadow on the outer edges. So someone just commented on the stream in the middle of class, and recently I was critiquing one of those league splashes, and it had some AI isms to it that I couldn't ignore. And so I left a quick little comment on the reel on Instagram asking, hey guys, is there AI used in Battle of Seraphine? Because there's some things about it that just look AI. It looks like early AI problem solving, you know, the mashed up detail. It looks like, you know, that mashed up look. And so there has been like this crusade of artists who are trying to crucify me for asking that very same question. And I just wanted to address that really quickly. How dare you try to stop the flow of questioning against AI? AI questioning, the questioning against AI should be uninterrupted. It should be constantly flowing. We should constantly be able, without taboo, without public crucifixion, to ask AI about AI use, without question. And every artist watching should welcome these questions, because it is when artists stop allowing that question is when we truly have lost the battle against AI. Imagine artists not wanting other artists to ask about AI usage. That's insane. It's like stopping us. It's like putting a tape over all our mouths because, oh, well, to ask is to raise suspicion. Well, then record. I think the only way to battle this is to do exactly what I've been doing all this time, which is record every last brushstroke. Record it offline, have it ready when you need it, record everything. And so being able to ask this question and then getting this like horde, this swarm of league addicted, you know, artists just shooting. It was never about me asking about AI. It was about the league addiction, because they're all really bent out of shape about me critiquing league art. So I know what I can see what it is in its totality. You know, it's not really about that one artist. So I don't even know who that artist is. For me, it's just riot art. I don't know who draws these illustrations, and I really couldn't care because it's not about them. This art belongs to Riot. And so we should be, as a group of artists, we should be able to address these questions and ask them without fear. We should always be able to ask, has AI been used? Has AI been used? Never stop asking that question, because that is part of our pushback against the greatest crime committed against artists of the modern age. We have had our work stolen from us. I think I've painted maybe like 10 pieces that I haven't uploaded anywhere, because it's gut-wrenching to upload them anywhere, knowing that they're going to be used and ravaged this way. It's a word I don't want to use, grape. It's literally what they did, is they graped all of our art, and they took whatever they wanted without any thought about it. So we have every right to ask these questions whenever we see there is a reasonable doubt, and we will continue to. You will not silence me because of your little clubs or whatever the fuck's going on in there in your little anime clubs. I really don't care. It's nonsense. I'm an educator, and I will continue to ask this question. So never, ever bring that up. If you bring that up, if you try to demonize anyone asking about AI, you will immediately get banned out of my community. AI lovers, AI defenders, AI tabooists, or whatever the term is, those who want to stop the discussion about AI for any egotistical reason, any narcissistic reason, any reason that may stem from some ego-related, game-loving, cult, tribal, territorial thing, whatever you guys are doing, wherever that's coming from psychologically for you, that it's going to be immediately banned. You're going to be immediately banned. Absolutely not. Nothing will ever stop the questioning against AI. It will never stop the dialogue against AI. We will always ask this question of studios, especially Riot. Like, grow up, because we need to be able to ask those big ass studios, did you use AI? Did you use AI? Answer the question. You don't want to answer the question truthfully, You want to doctor some kind of process, you can do this without AI is the whole point, is that you guys can do anything without AI. You don't need AI to do it. AI sucks. Everything about AI sucks, and we should be able to talk about it without fear of getting swarmed by 1 HP damage minions on our social media pages. Anyway, back to this. So what have I done here? So as you can see, I am raising the value around the nose, because the nose, yes, it can have like some high traffic pigmentation, you know, from the blood around the nose, but you can see how, like, before, after, we have this like this lack of highlight in the nose and excessive use of blending that's caused the nose to kind of disappear and led to you needing to use a bit more shadow. So the overuse of blending causes data loss, because you've over blended the actual geometric substructure of this nose. So what I did was I reblocked it in, and I added all those extra shadows. Now I have this bed of midtones that I can climb from really, really easily while using a blocking brush that has some texture in it. Do not overuse airbrush. You are definitely overusing it. You're an amazing artist. Look at what you have. Look at what you did. Look at what you built. You haven't, like, this, the use of actual cylindrical geometric anatomy here actually makes the lips look like they're plump and they're real, and they look like they're about to speak. It looks great, but there is that sense of almost android anatomy, you know, that perfectly perfect skin feels a little bit too perfect to feel like a natural face. It feels airbrushed, which can make it look too digital. Again, I'm a traditionally trained artist, meaning like I started off with traditional, so I always have a love for that extra grit inside brush strokes. You can see why I always use my blocking brush. And I didn't really grow up with perfectly clean 3D animation Disney movies. They always had that little bit of scratchiness in the lines. And so that's kind of my generation, which I'm very, very proud of. I love that natural look, that artistic look. So if you really like that airbrush look, it's all a matter of taste. But I really recommend you get yourself a blocking brush that you use for some aspect of the later hours of the illustration, okay? And so over here, what I'm doing is I'm disconnecting the eye bags. You really over represented those eye bags. They should be there, they should be present, but they really shouldn't be attached or feel like they're anatomically hanging off, literally hanging off the inner corner. And you'll see what I mean at the end. But yeah, if you guys try to follow me to my personal spaces, to my Discord, I have I have a very watchful set of moderators that are loyal to our community and loyal to what we're doing here. And they have no mercy. They are going to bring the banhammer down by my instruction on anyone who tries to bring that toxicity of that whole world, that whole group to this community where we are building skill. Real artists are building real skill without the use of any kind of technology. They're sitting there breaking their backs every single day, getting critiques, putting their egos away, putting their anything that might stand in the way, putting away, learning about discipline, putting away any previous habits that they may have had, and learning real skill here in my community, a community I have been building since before you guys were walking. All of you new generation artists, 15 years and younger, usually is the age group, 18 years, 17 years. Those are the kinds of accounts that have been hacking my channel before you guys were even speaking the full sentences I've been teaching. So have some respect for my community. Don't bring that crap here. There is no space for it here. My students learn. My students get good. And that's what I want to keep doing here. And no amount of technology, no new AI, nothing. We are world proof because we stay together, we stick together, and we critique each other's work, and we learn building real skill and real humans. And I'm just getting rid of this overly polished, perfectly precision, like nanotechnology level eye bag here. We don't need that, because if you look close at the skin, skin is soft. It's soft on the texture spectrum. Skin is on the softer side. But it does have bumps. It does have texture. It does have surface bruising, you know, like not bruising, but like changes in the surface elevations. It does have all those different pigmentations, thickness levels. So a textured brush will really help you get that imperfection, that perfect imperfection. And again, because I darkened the image so early in the process, I can bring in some asymmetrical brush strokes. We're not looking for perfect symmetry, just functional symmetry. Those two things are different from each other. Those are not quite the same thing. Perfect symmetry is mechanically perfect symmetry. Like when they are aligning your car's wheels, those are close to perfect symmetry, because you really need that to be perfect for you to understand what's happening to your car. But we have functional symmetry, meaning that our vision is generally seeing the same image from both sides of the face, the light that's traveling around us, catching our eyes at the same volume when they're perfectly symmetrical. People with asymmetrical eyes, if you've ever seen that before, there's a couple actresses that actually have that. And it usually comes hand in hand with vision issues, because the eyes aren't catching the light at the same level. Sometimes they're seeing double. Sometimes it's a completely needs complete surgery to adjust it. So we're not looking for perfect symmetry. We're just looking for functional symmetry. And of course, we're not looking for perfect skin. We're looking for skin that feels organic. So you're at that level where you have so much skill, you went overboard with it, and you over perfected the image, where in fact it results in a lower skill result. It's a really weird little matrix you're in right now, where the lack of imperfection is causing a lower skill look because you're too good. Do you understand? It's like a weird little wiggle room you found yourself in. But you've wiggled yourself in, and you're not sure exactly what you're supposed to do. Am I just supposed to do a worse job? Like, are you asking me to mess up my drawing? And the answer is yes. I'm asking you to paint less well. I'm asking you to be a little bit less fastidious about your brush strokes, because you need to have that in deliberate imperfection in your illustrations to for it to read as organic. Please bring that perfection back when you're doing like rendering some kind of mechanical object or some perfect technology. But when you're painting a human, loosen the reins a little bit, because we don't need a perfectly rendered face. That's when you create that uncanny perfection, where it's like almost like a shapeshifter. They're trying really hard to look human, but they've obviously never been through anything, and so their skin is like perfectly smooth, unnaturally smooth, and we don't have that natural human flawed look. And so that's really where this is all coming from. And so usually highlights reveal these issues. And so when I bring in my highlight, I'm bringing it in with a blocking brush, and I'm going to try to preserve some of the texture in that blocking brush. I'm going to try to preserve the edges of the blocking brush, the texture. And so that is what's going to give us that human look that's really going to go far. And usually, you'll get far with that perfect rendering that you're doing, that perfectly smooth rendering you're doing. You'll get far with it. It's not to say that there's no stage for it. Absolutely not. But it is, if you are going for that skill that isn't quite, you look at it and you could see it as a traditional painting. You have that traditional charm to it. Usually that perfectly digital look is a very small group. It's almost close. It's neighboring to photorealism. And photorealism is kind of like its own little niche group when it comes to the world of illustration. Photorealists, their job is to just be as realistic as possible. It's no longer about realism for the sake of, functional storytelling. It's more just about realism, really. And so be careful with that. If again, if that's your thing, that's fine too, but be careful with it. And so the lower eyelids being so sharply done, and then the lower eyelid block being too bright, made the eyes look like they're just android eyes. Do you know what I mean? Like that look that makes them look not quite human. The lack of shine in the eyebrows, which I added earlier, again, remove the sweat from the surface, so it made it look not quite human. There are many little additions here and there that are making it look too perfect, and I'm essentially using the blocks you had already, but adding that imperfection. I don't have time to build all of the brush strokes for you. I'm basically trying to rewind your blending process. We have the blending, but not all of it is going to be perfectly blended. You want to paint like there is some limitation in your process, some way you're getting an uncomfortable, kind of not exactly perfect brush stroke. And I'm just adding a little bit more of those rogue brush strokes that are not quite blended, just so that we have that surface texture of skin. We're not actually trying to paint skin that's perfect. We're trying to paint skin that's humanly perfect. Those are two very different things. And I'm just trying to kind of interrupt the wideness of your brush stroke, so that when you paint with soft brush, it's wider than you think. You think you know where the edge of that brush stroke is for that airbrush. It is not that. That's not the edge, excuse me, that you think it is. It's even wider than that. Its area of effect is even wider than that. And so I'm being very careful with how far it's stretching, and be careful with how wide you are allowing that edge of the lip corner to go. It kind of feels like a person with a facelift, a bad facelift. Have you ever seen those when, like, I'm sorry, really, really old faces get a very extreme facelift? Do you guys remember, like, have you guys seen that? It looks like the mouth is like, it's wider than the eyes, honestly, because the edge of the mouth, that lip corner, expanded with age, leading to like they're stretching out the skin that define the edge of the lip. And so right now it feels like a little bit like you're doing that. I'm actually going to get the blocking brush and throw in with lighten tool, throw in the limit of that nose, because the nose needs a coarse shadow line. You didn't really have one. Why? Because you overused the airbrush. Okay, so like we're adding that human element by backtracking the perfect blending that you were doing, and it was great. You were doing great blending. So the eyes have a bit of a, like, I mean, it's 14-day challenge. What are you going to do? You have a limit. But I would suggest for the lash line, instead of making it so perfect, go in there. I'm using my number 4 smudger, and I'm just going to blend the edge of the lash line. Usually we have lashes or makeup smudge or some kind of disturbance here that makes it so that this edge isn't perfect. In fact, this edge is where we expect imperfection of the texture of lashes. So we really shouldn't see that perfectly sharp razor edge. And so this takes some skill, and that's why I associate, you know, painterly work as masterful work, especially when it pulls off all the coarse shadows, because it takes skill being deliberate with your mistakes. It's like that whole learn the rules in order for you to know how to break them. It's the same concept here. You're breaking the rules strategically when you are texturizing, but here it's not even painterly. It's literally just still realistic. But you can see how on the spectrum we're borrowing from painterly techniques, averaging out detail, creating the illusion of texture, all of those things. Yeah, artists shouldn't rely on the symmetry tool. So if you are using the symmetry tool, that's fine. It's fine to have perfect symmetry, but it's not good to have perfect symmetry with your brush strokes. Let your brush strokes be a little asymmetrical, because the texture on the surface of the skin is not perfectly symmetrical. And so some things here have been done to make the face feel a little bit more human. I would even go far as to clean up and add some flaws to the cheeks, maybe. Just some brush strokes that kind of define the presence of the cheek a little bit more. Just like that. And so then I'm just going to blend them away. My blending brush is a smudge brush on a scatter brush, and it's imperfect too. I never want an airbrush look. Even my soft brush in my set, take a look at what it looks like when you zoom it up or when you zoom in. It's very, very, very messy, and it's got interruptions on it. So never ever use a perfectly smooth soft brush. I've never used the soft brush airbrush that comes with Photoshop. I've made my own because I know it needs to be imperfect. That perfectly smooth surface is just too smooth. It's too smooth. It's very unrealistic. It has damage. It causes damage. Another thing I did, I don't know if you noticed, it was early on while I was ranting about those people, is I added a shadow hover. So this is for your skill level. You're more than ready for this type of advice. You need to have, I'm going to exaggerate it, you need to have the halo shadow on the eye socket, and it's radial. So let me show you what that looks like on its own. All right, with the face, without the face. So you see how it's radial? This is the presence of, actually, this is the inversion of the presence of the light. This is the equal opposite. This is the shadow of the light. I don't know if this is the you know, the way to describe it. Anyone who's trying to start that debate about AI here, you need to just shut them off, okay, mods? They're trying to bring this in here, and I don't. Anyone who wants to start that debate here, anyone who wants to talk about that, just completely just shut them off. So this is the shadow I'm talking about. I'm adding it in slowly on a darkened layer, and I added it in earlier. I'm going to do it again. Please respect the class. This is literally just a free class for you guys. It's just a class. So okay, so like, don't talk about it anymore. Let's just shut down the topic, because they're watching. I know they are. And so see that little shadow, and you'll see it in the before and after. Again, I'm just glancing over. I don't know exactly what you guys are talking about. I'm just seeing that the topic has been brought up keyword wise. So let's take a look at the before and after now, so you can see the difference. Actually, so how do I want to do this? Do I want to keep the old one and put the new one on top of it? I don't know. Let's try that. Okay, so okay, so slight imperfections. If we zoom in, you can see the brush strokes. It's not perfectly rendered anymore. Oh dear, my overlap isn't quite perfect. I don't like that. Why is it off to the side? All right, this, I think we got it. All right, so you see those differences? We added imperfections. You see those brush strokes? You want a little bit of that in your illustrations. You don't want mathematical, perfect razor edge lines. And you see how you had the eye, you had an unnecessary edge here around the under eye. You really don't see those types of wrinkles in that extreme until like maybe you're hitting 60 years old, late 50s. You start seeing those really deep surface contours when it comes to wrinkles. This character, I mean, nothing's wrong with painting old people, but this character isn't old all the way around, right? We have young mouth, young nose, but suddenly we have this really, really forward jump in the age around the eyes. So you can just represent that with a surface contour instead. And then you can see how just adding a little bit more of that shadow around the eye made the eyes not feel like it's like skin that you wrapped around something that wasn't quite skeletal in a human level. And then you can see how the nose had a bit too much shadow on it. So I could do a little bit more work today on this, but I need to jump on to the other 14-day challengers. I believe this was their day 12. Yep. So this is amazing work for day 12. Even the shadow of the neck could be a little bit less airbrushed. Stop airbrushing so much for your day 13 and day 14. challenge yourself, because there's no learning without challenge. Challenge yourself and try to paint your whole next portrait with a blocking brush. Try it. You will surprise yourself. You have more than enough knowledge, and you will find a way around it. I know you'll have that instinct to go back to the airbrush. Airbrush is the diction. It really is, because if you feel like you're doing, I've used to use it. You feel like you're doing a lot of work. It makes the job look easy, but the result isn't worth it because it's too perfect. This is another 14-day challenger, but they used a reference. So let's talk about why reference isn't encouraged for the 14-day challenge. You can use it if you're really struggling, but the reason why it's not encouraged is because references answer the question for you. You can always use reference whenever you need to in the world around. When you start working and creating illustrations, references are always going to be there. What are we learning that we're not getting from a reference in the 14-day challenge? We're learning the method. We're learning the steps. We're learning how to build and structure the geometric anatomy. We're learning how to build bone and skin and create a face out of nothing without reference. So you're missing out on all of that: blocking, stages, blending, creating a face, customizing a face to your decisions instead of just having the reference answer the questions for you. So I think that because you relied on the reference, some of the things that you don't know how to do really are showing. So you did a great job working with the reference. You followed it perfectly, but where are your blocks? I just did a whole class on this. Where are the blocks of the face? You know, where is the separation between upper and lower half? It looks like a very, very washed out sort of environment, kind of like looking through a fog. Sorry, I chugged a lot of tea before class, so I'm a little bit burpy. I apologize. You guys can hear me battling it while I'm talking. I don't know why this happens when I lecture. I'm so sorry. So you can see here, I mean, we don't need this. This is hair, I think, because you're referencing. So you just added that to the top, and you've completely cut off any visual kind of clue for you to see the sphere. That's what the 14-day challenge is about. You're seeing the shapes under everything. And so none of these blocks are visible. And these are the blocks that matter one day when you're drawing out of memory. 14-day challenge teaches you how to draw a face without reference. It teaches you reference-free skill. There's no bigger flex. So this is why so many artists are taking it on, because I want to rely on my skill. I want my skill to be reliable and real. I don't want it to be reference reliant, and I don't want it to be style reliant or template reliant. I want to just be able to draw my faces when I want. And so this is all missing, and this is what you learn when you do a 14-day challenge, especially if you're recording your process or showing steps and sending it to the subreddit. People will say it, hey, where are your blocks? Everybody here knows about this discourse now. They know about this terminology. So they'll bring it up. They'll say, hey, you're not blocking enough, and blocking is so essential. So this is, I forget which day, I think day 1 for you, if I'm not mistaken. Start blocking. Don't use a reference. Let's see what you have in your mind for what you know faces look like. And for your day 2 or day 3, whichever is the next day, start blocking. Okay, and show us your process. Don't use another reference. Let's just use whatever's already floating around in your head. Because it's not about unique faces when it's a 14-day challenge. It's about the process, reliable skill. It's about connecting or trying not to see the face as a face, but as a building, as a structure. And this is why studying the 14-day challenge helps you with everything else, because everything else that you're ever going to draw needs you to think of it as a structure in order to draw it successfully. All right, so on and on, it's going to keep building up the separation between that really, really washed out lighting and lighting that actually has structure. These are the things that help you build illustrations. Moving on to the next one, I believe this is the response for last critique that I did. So I think you did a great job. There's a bit of asymmetry in the eyes, so let's make the eyes a little bit more anatomically structured. So usually we pinch the eyes. Imagine just getting your hand and pinching the inner corners. I'm literally going to use the pinch tool on the inner corners here. I'm pinching everything together. And then I'm going to make a perfect crest. Is it crest? Is that the word? It's like a perfect arch for the eyes. And then I'm going to remove all expression from the eyebrows. We don't need any expression. The eyebrows, you should try to be a little bit more symmetrical. So this is kind of on the other side of the first one we looked at, which was too symmetrical. This is not symmetrical enough. And you can see how it's so important for you guys to critique each other, because most of your strengths are someone else's weaknesses and your weaknesses are someone else's strengths. That's why it's important to stay in a community, because once you guys start communicating, you can exchange this information, this knowledge with each other. Especially if both of you are doing the opposite thing and have opposite strengths. This is why you can't learn in a vacuum. You have to be part of a community. And you're all really excelling because of this one thing that you're doing, which is communicating with other artists. So I'm just creating this more symmetrical, tighter look to the anatomy of the eye. And the eyes look a little bit too shocked, so I'm just going to reduce that circular shape. Not so much trying to make them look like they're squinting, but just to reduce that vertical length. Eyes are wider, more wide than they are vertical. And shrinking the eyes appropriate to the head size. Don't make the face too big for the head. Lots and lots and lots of unusual bumps around the face edge. You really don't need all those extra little bumps. Try to make the skin look like it's the same bone structure on either side underneath it. No new bumps or spurs or anything like that. And then just widening the cranium. The cranium is wider at the top and more globular. So the 14-day challenge is an amazing challenge. Try it, even if you're just doing it for 4 days. I swear to you, you will improve. And then I'm just bringing it down. Something about that order of I mean, it's not something, it's not mysterious, it's because of the way we do it. Something about that way of building the 14-day challenge, getting the critique, starting from scratch, looking at at the paint over, building things from shapes, moving into subjects, like from object to subject. You just are not the same. You start thinking as a sculptor, instead of just as a, flat tracing knowledge that you may have been doing when you were younger, or just guesswork or habit skill. Just those really, really reliable sets of things that you've memorized. Be careful with the distance between the nose and the mouth. It can prematurely age the face. Especially if you're aiming to paint some kind of younger face, more beautiful face, you will, again, not that older people are not beautiful, but you know what I mean, that kind of youthful look, and most of the characters people are drawing, you are making the face look much older by, oops, what am I doing? Okay. By adding that distance between the nose and the mouth. But if you really want to make the face look older, you can do it that way. Now you know how to do it, by making that distance happen between the nose and the mouth. It's a very, very slight aging thing. I don't know the word. It ages the face when you do it. All right, and then for the neck, as I showed you in the critique that I did before, please try to add the shadow of the neck, okay? That shadow of the neck needs to be present. They're not connected, so they shouldn't have the same value. There's no connection there. This is an overlap edge. The chin is in front of the neck. The challenge is to draw a portrait 14 times. Usually it's 14 days in a row, but obviously not everybody can do that these days, especially because everyone's so busy. But you know, you can do it over months. It could take you a year if you wanted to. The point is you're drawing a face 14 times, and you're comparing your day 1 and day 14, and you will never not see a difference if you did it right. And then a way to do it right is to get critique. You need a community in order to do this challenge, because you need that extra set of eyes that you're not, you know, that these things that you're blind to, that you're not seeing, the extra set of eyes will see them, and they will reveal to you, yeah, this is not, you know, quite stuff you would have noticed had you been doing it for years and took a break. But the reason why critique is so important is because you don't have to wait years to finally see the issue that you had. You can see it today. We're just getting a critique, which is so amazing. Okay, the nose is the only place where you have contrast. Why? Where's the rest of the contrast? In my previous critique, I showed you there's a contrast around the lashes. There's contrast around the eye socket. You don't have to make the eyebrows so dark as I did last time. And there's contrast around the corners of the mouth. So apply these corrections. Get that anatomy looking a little bit more tight, a little bit less loose. You don't want loose eyelids, right? That's not functional anymore. In order for the eyelids to glide smoothly over the eyeball, they need to be stretched tightly across it like a belt. But as you get older, your eyelids do get looser, and then you have to have surgery, because then they droop over your eyes, stopping your vision. So before, after, yeah, the face looks a bit more unique, but I feel like that was an accidental result. If you ever do want to have a very specific result, you can go for something with a reference. But for your 14-day challenge, try to draw a face that you can use everywhere. Commissions, personal art, whatever. You have this skill now. You have this fire in your hands. You can draw a portrait anytime you want. And that's the beauty of learning this real skill. And it is the biggest FU to AI art, because you become the generator. You are the one who's generating portraits now. I think this is the day 14. Yes, it is completed day 14. Let's talk about what they did right, what they did wrong. So for your 14-day challenge, I'm not sure if anyone mentioned it to you, do not show or worry about the shoulder structure. We don't need it. You're just thinking about the head anatomy. Your canvas is too small. Okay, and then we have the separation. Let me see. So see how tough I'm at 10% tolerance for my magic wand, but I'm still having trouble lassoing the face. This is because there was no real contrast between the object and the background. All right, so we need to get that contrast nice and clear so it doesn't look milky. That's where you start losing the contrast that you need. Gonna give us a bit more space at the top. The eyes are looking like they're looking down, but if we get rid of the iris and the pupil, we can see that even the structure of the eyes is a little bit off. So the eyes are sitting a little bit too low. It almost looks like we're taller than him. Do you see that? Because of the way you place the eyebrows. Because of the way you place the ears along the eyebrows. So let's just jump into liquefy. I'm going to give him more cranial mass at the top. He's like missing part of his brain. I was about to make a joke, but you know what? Let's not throw flame to the fire. What is it? Coal on the fire? Fuel to the fire. Let's not fuel the fire. And then we have the entire eye. Actually, let me just do it this way. The eyes need to be a little bit closer to the eyebrows. They're a bit too low. Again, I'm not sure if you used the reference, maybe if you were influenced by a reference a lot, but there is like a downward look to his face that may have influenced your work. And then I'm just going to lower the ears, so they're a little bit closer. We want the faces to look forward in the 14-day challenge so that all the anatomy is clear and visible. We can draw the nostrils. If you draw from a high angle, You're not really showing the nostrils. You can't mess around with radial shading, so you're missing out on that lesson. No extreme angles for the 14-day challenge. Once you graduate the front view of the 14-day challenge, by all means, go crazy. Do 3/4 view, do low angle, but try to get that front view nice and solid because it's what you reference for everything else. Learning that top-down light means you've learned automatically by inversion the bottom light, lower angle light. You've learned how to do 3/4 view by studying the front view because you have a starting place for that first frame of rotation. You have a starting place. If you don't know how to paint front view and you're trying to 3/4 view, my gosh, that's like the hardest thing to do. You have to learn front view first. So there's a starting point that is good for the human brain and the way it thinks. If you know how to paint 3/4 view for some weird reason because you studied it more better than front view, that's power to you, but you have to eventually learn front view, if you want to be a character artist, that is. This is all if you want to be an illustrator. There's nothing forcing you to do the 14-day challenge. It's a challenge for anyone who wants to paint characters. And so what I'm trying to do here is make it so that the character is looking forward. This is a very extreme angle that you did. The jawline is higher than the mouth. And you can see before it was like two angles on top of each other. It was very unusual. And then we have the eyes where they need to be. The face looks like it's looking forward a little bit more. And then we've got the rest of the features that need to catch up to the eyes and the ears. All right, so lots of little surgical changes here and there. Let's take a look at the before and after. So you can see that almost like a fisheye lens. You see what I'm saying? Like it was really, really warped. And then now I can block in the rest. So now that we have the anatomy sort of where it needs to go, we can talk about blocking. You have the shadow that looks like almost a tattoo. There's no real, I wouldn't say there's like an anatomical consistency between all faces that have this. It looks like unusual pigmentation maybe. So let's cut this in half, show where the cheeks are catching light. Okay. Remember the geometric origin shape of the nose. How does it help us? So it's like a big rectangular prism with a kind of a triangular bit at the end. That's the actual scientific name. And I'm just raising the value on the side of the nose. That doesn't need to be that dark. It's just the side of the nose. It's a mountain. It's catching a lot of light. And there's like a highlight that you did here around the mouth. See that? You've interrupted that thing that I call a beard shadow, which is the core shadow of the sphere of the head. So you've kind of interrupted the essential core, the core shadows. Yeah, exactly, the core shadows. And I'm just limiting the extension of that nose shadow. It's going a little too low. We're trying to have a middle way, halfway core shadow for the nose. You don't have the shadow block for the edge of the mouth or the shadow block for the lower lip. The lower eyelid may be a little too circular. You do not have the block for the eye socket. Where's that gone to? The reason I think this is a male is because of the size of the nose, the flatness of the eyebrows, the squareness of the jaw, the size and shape of the mouth, the distance between the nose and the mouth, the closeness of the eyes. Still very handsome, still a handsome male, but has male beauty elements. Female cheekbones do this, male cheekbones do that. They kind of do a more of an inward indentation for the world of our illustration. In the real world, you'll find men with curved cheekbones. You'll find that has nothing to do with class. Real world doesn't always apply to the world of illustration. There are some things the world gets away with that we can't get away with in the way we cast characters and the tropes of our character designs. Okay, and then the temples are a little suddenly too dark for no reason. You really don't need to outline. This is leftover line reliance, line dependence, and then we're almost done. So this face looks like a little bit, you know, all around complete. I'll try to render it as to the best of my ability in the time I've got left. I'm a little bit over, but that's okay. That's why I started early today. Doing a little block for the inner corner. And the eyebrows start a little too late. Maybe just give them a little bit of a push towards the inner. Not so much to make him angry, but just to show that there's more hair there growing. The guy's got plenty of hair. And then I'm just showing how the eyebrows meet a point towards the end. And you downturn the inner corner, another clue for drawing male faces. And then we've got the shadow of the eyeball, that core shadow of the eyeball, and the shadow of the lashes. Okay, so we have a nice bed of blocks here. Again, for that first artist, I hope you're watching, because this blocking, it's something that you're skipping. This blocking stage. Eventually, I promise, the blocks will start to come together. And then going to lighten layer and just trying to even out the shadow of that nose and reblocking the nostrils. So I was going to get to you guys eventually, all the 14-day challengers, but I've been a little bit overwhelmed with the amount of stuff I've been doing. Personal projects, the reels on Instagram, pissing off a whole community of gamers. And so toxic. And so I've been a little bit busy, but I'm happy I found some time today. So there's a shadow right under the septum. If you watch the previous 14-day challenge from last week, you'll see it. And a shadow under each nostril. And guys, if you have questions, prep them now before I leave, because I just tend to dash out. So if you have any questions, if any of the challengers are present today, prep your questions. And I'm just going to start blending. Actually, you know what? Let me duplicate the layer so I can just show you real quick. Okay, so then I'm just going to start blending. I'm blending the edges. Give me a second. Here, via copy. Okay. I'm blending out here. I'm not trying to blend the whole block away, especially for male faces. You don't want to make it too smooth. If you are trying to paint an androgynous male face, okay, blend a little extra, you know. But just male, straight kind of male, doesn't really decorate. Then you want to unblend a little bit, underblend. And then I'm just blending out here. Letting my smudge brush, which I've designed so it duplicates exactly what we're usually doing in traditional. We're just getting our little smudging tortillon or whatever it's called, and just using that to smudge. And I'm just trying to get that contrast working. So the reason the eyes look like they're sleepy is because of the amount of eyelids we see. This could just be the guy's face, you know, it could just be how he looks, really. And again, I'm just smudging. Make sure to smudge the inner eyebrow here, okay? Because it'll make the hair look like it's actually growing. And you can also smudge like this top section. I'm going to get my blocking brush and making League Kitties mad is a valid priority. Hi, Benny. When did you come in here? I'm just going back and forth. So let's talk about eyebrow detail real quick. Brush stroke up, brush stroke down. Brush stroke down with a smaller brush stroke back up. And eventually you get this nice looking hair growth. Brush stroke down from the other value, brush stroke up from the darker value. Whatever adjacent value you have around the eyebrows. Do it zoomed out, obviously, because that'll get you better estimation. Okay, and then here you can start introducing some contrast. So the eyebrows are dark, and so they have their pigments. And then we can start blending the nostrils. And then what we're going to do is blend the nose, but trying not to blend away the sharpness of that shadow there. And then what we have is like a whole other little, you know, array of detail I don't have time to fully cover, but it's going to take a little bit more rendering, which I wish I could do. But we'll see the before and after. Before I close this one up, though, I want to limit any extra little lines hanging out. All right, and then one thing that male faces do actually is they kind of have a stronger brow bone. Kind of fallen in love with this guy. And then it's like, you know, that Jane scene when she like draws Tarzan and she's like, he has these eyes. I've never seen eyes like that before. Is that what she says? And then a little bit of extra highlight around the cheeks, the nose tip, and the eyes, the nose. What are they called? Nostrils. Sorry, I'm just like in love. I'm joking. I'm joking. And then of course the shadow. Right around here, there's a shadow for the chin. So we really need this shadow. It's very important. He feels like he's a little bit darker skinned, so we would see that shadow stick out. You guys tend to forget your shadows. I know they're a little tricky to add on because it'll look like a turtleneck right from the first block, but just give it a second, blend it out, and you'll see how beneficial it is. All right, making sure not to outline anywhere. So no outlining. And then we'll take a look at the before and after now. So actually this is before I blended. So you see how the blending, it's barely blending. We're not really blending away every last brush stroke. The human face is imperfect. It's perfectly imperfect. It's not going to be perfectly smooth. Don't airbrush your portraits, guys. It's not going to look right. It's going to look weird. So I'm just going to try to do a before and after thingy here. Just with the history because I changed the size. Actually, I don't want to do that. So you know what I'm going to do actually? I'm just going to grab this. No. Oops. Maybe I can find it in the subreddit real quick. Give me a second because I already changed the size of the canvas. And I really want you guys to see the difference here. So there it is. All right, I've already found it. Save image as desktop. Okay. So just so we can see the before and after very nicely, I want to do that. It's not quite overlapped. Bear with me. I'm annoying. Just bear with me. I changed so many things about the layout that it doesn't even matter. Okay. So we've got Do you see that before and after? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take out this stuff so that the before and after, it's actually, you guys have seen this before, I'm sure. When, you know, when you cut out those extra distracting things, you see where the real changes are happening. So I changed the background value. Obviously your background value before wasn't right. Do you see those changes? That's why it's important to make sure the overlap is perfect. So before, after, before, after. One of these looks more realistic because we corrected the perspective to be consistent. One of these looks more realistic because we blocked according to the direction of the light source. We looked at the head as if it was a building. One of these looks more realistic because the anatomy was adjusted so that it makes sense. The eyes aren't sagging out of their eye socket. They're still, you know, firmly attached to their eye socket. Do you guys see these differences here? All right. So before, after, before, after. Blocking is the most important skill to develop. It is what you learn from the 14-day challenge. Blocking makes the biggest difference because you are thinking about the light and form. That's what art is. Realism on any level, whether you stylize it or not, is about light and form. Okay? Thank you everyone for watching today. This was a lot of a 14-day challenge talk. I think I talked about 4 pieces. Someone kindly asked, could I take a look at the photo study as well quickly if possible? Let me take a look and see where it is. This is the one you were talking about, the one I had originally wanted to do. I think that the face is too small. So the head is almost to size, but because you have it right here, your face looks like it's sliding right off the head. So a quick fix for that would be just enlarging the head, enlarging the face and letting it sit on the head a little bit more appropriately. Before, you had the head kind of falling off, face falling off. See how much smaller the face is than the head? So maybe you just saw more of the forehead, you really focused on it, but this outside of the reference, like forget the reference, let's just ignore the reference for a second. Without the influence of the reference, you can see how small the face was. Do you see that? Okay, that was the thing that I noticed about this one. There's other things here and there if we look back at the reference. Obviously, there's like some blocks that are missing. The eyes look like they're looking down, not quite up. I'd say keep working on it, but fix this one first. Okay, thank you everyone for coming to today's class. I really appreciate you guys being here. If you want to submit your work for critique, all you have to do is go to istebrak.com and click on the subreddit icon right here. This is where I got everything I critiqued today. All the pieces you saw were from here. This is where you submit your 14-day challenge if you're excited to start yours, if you want to build some real skill, sharpen the skill you already have. Kick AI in the ass. This is where you can go. This is where we're building real skill. It's a real educational community. The only thing that I'm really selling is my masterclass in Portia Studio. It's not all about, you know, tutorials or anything like that are for pay. Everything here is pro bono. It's all free. And including today's critiques, they were all free. It's just for you guys to learn so you can draw the things that you imagine and feel better about yourself. I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you everyone for watching. Bye guys.